like all of no.
magnesium
yeah. One. These